Job one remains keeping people safe. This has been our government's focus right from the start of the pandemic. That's why today we started our meeting with a presentation about vaccine rollout from Dr. Tam, Major General Fortin, and President Stewart of the Public Health Agency. In just a few moments, Dr. Tam and Major General Fortin will provide more details about what they presented to the premiers. Yesterday, Health Canada approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine as safe and effective. We now have a green light on getting shipments delivered and vaccines out to Canadians. The first 30,000 doses are expected to arrive on Canadian soil in just a few days. To all Canadians, if you're feeling relieved and hopeful, you're not alone. This is the good news we all needed. But remember, this is only the first step in what would be a massive project over a long winter. I announced to the premiers that the federal government will be covering the cost of these vaccines, as well as the supplies needed to administer them. Not only will doses be free for Canadians, but provinces and territories won't have to use their funding to pay for this vaccine. Vaccines are safe and effective. Serious side effects are incredibly rare. In the very unlikely event of an adverse reaction, though, we want to make sure that Canadians have fair access to support. So today, I can announce that we're creating a federal support program around vaccine safety for all Canadians and for all vaccines. This includes COVID-19 vaccines that will be rolled out soon. This program is based on the model Quebec has had in place for the last 30 years and follows the lead of all other G7 countries. Today, the premiers and I discussed what else we need to do while we roll out vaccines. The federal government has already covered the cost of billions of pieces of PPE and millions of rapid tests that we've sent to the provinces and territories. We've also provided tens of billions of dollars in funding to the provinces and territories, including through the Safe Restart Agreement and the Safe Return to Class Fund. This money is for everything from strengthening healthcare to improving ventilation in schools. 8 out of every $10 spent to protect and support Canadians through this crisis has been spent by the federal government. And as I've said to the premiers at our previous meetings, we will continue to work with them to ensure that this help gets to the people who need it. I proposed many concrete steps during our meeting on the work with the premiers moving forward. First of all, we all recognized how important it is to support seniors during this pandemic. The challenges that have been laid bare in our long-term care homes requires more resources and more work together to deliver for our seniors who are worried and families who are worried about them. So I proposed moving forward with the provinces on sharing best practices and delivering new federal resources to ensure that our seniors are best protected, and I certainly hope to work with the premiers on that in the coming weeks. We also made commitments to move forward on pharmacare. We've already made commitments on high-cost prescription drugs. We've made commitments on working on a national formulary, and I look forward to working with premiers who are ready on a universal pharmacare system that can make a huge difference when Canadians are worried about pharmacare, about vaccines, about that side of healthcare. We made a commitment to work together on that. We know that collection of data and digital transformation of our healthcare systems is increasingly important, and collaboration between different regions and jurisdictions is going to be important in order to deliver the best modern healthcare, including virtual care, to Canadians necessary, and there is much we can do to collaborate on that, and I look forward to working with the provinces and territories on better use of technology and better coordination of data. We also talked about long-term healthcare system funding. It's going to be important that the federal government, as I said, steps up and increases its share of the costs of healthcare with the Canada Health transfers. We are going to do that, and I look forward to conversations over the coming months about how we can increase it. Of course, our focus remains right now getting through this pandemic, and as I said multiple times to the premiers, we will be there to support them with extra healthcare costs linked to this pandemic whatever it takes, for as long as this pandemic lasts. We also need to take lessons on public health from what was happening through this pandemic. We talked about the lessons we learned from SARS 20 years ago that were applicable during this pandemic, and how we should already start collecting best practices and looking what public health agencies have learned during this pandemic to make sure we are ready for whatever the universe throws our way in the coming years or decades. And of course, we committed to continual ongoing First Ministers collaboration. This was our 23rd First Ministers meeting, and I, of course, committed to continuing to meet with them regularly to talk about the things that matter to Canadians, from our healthcare systems to the rollout of vaccines that obviously is top of mind for Canadians and on which we continue to collaborate extremely well. We've been working together because this is just what Canadians do. We're there for each other. From the first days of the pandemic, when people delivered supplies to elderly neighbors, to the summer when farmers worked hard to get food on our plates, to this winter when people are staying home to protect the most vulnerable, Canadians have each other's backs. We're in this together, and together we will defeat COVID-19. Before I pass it over to Minister LeBlanc, I also want to recognize that it has been 2 years to the day since Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig were arbitrarily detained in China. Our priority as a government continues to be securing their immediate release. Mr. Spavor and Mr. Kovrig and their families have shown truly remarkable perseverance in the face of an unimaginable situation. I want to thank all of the countries around the world that have expressed support on this issue. Mr. Spavor and Mr. Kovrig must be released.